There we go. Let's see. Got a couple more people coming in from the waiting room, guys. All right, let's get going. So, Savannah and Heather, I'll just continue to monitor the waiting room, let anyone in, and then I'll also help monitor chat. So, everyone, I'm Kara, if from Boston Women's Market. If we have not met in person yet, I'm so happy to be doing this workshop with Bloom Collective. This is our first holiday kind of workshop that we've done in a really long time this time of year. So I'm really glad that we can kind of bring some fresh perspectives and ideas for you guys to the table before we all get really busy in person and online with some awesome sales this year. So just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started. If you can just keep yourself on mute while we're in the presentation, that would be amazing. But if you do have questions, we'll stop periodically for Q&A. We love to see everyone's faces, so please feel free to unmute yourself, turn your camera on if you feel comfortable with that to ask your questions. Or if you prefer the chat, just go ahead and plop questions at any point throughout the workshop in the chat, and we'll get to as many as you can. I know a lot of you had put in some great questions also in your registration, so I know Savannah and Heather are going to be hitting on some of those too, which is great. So just a little brief introduction about Savannah and Heather. We've been working with Bloom Collective now for, is this 3 years or 2 years? I think 2 years of different workshops and activations. They are both not only marketing experts in person online, but they both have their own independent businesses also, brick and mortar and online marketing, online sales and in-person market sales. So they have a very diverse, extensive background, and it's really going to be really insightful and important for you guys to tap into. So we're super happy to have you guys back. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kara, for having us once again. These are always like our favorite workshop events that we get a chance to do. And we're really excited to connect with everyone today. I know that we're all just like gearing on up for the holidays, myself included. So hopefully this feels really good and everyone gets a lot of burning questions answered. But yeah, Heather and I are super excited to be here. So essentially, my name is Savannah Barkley, for those of you who haven't met me, and I'm one of the co-founders of Bloom Collective and Shop Bloom PVD, which is our retail incubation space that we just opened about 2.5 months ago, which we're super excited about, and that's located in Providence. So when I'm not busy with Bloom, I run an accessories design business called Sir Milky Quartz, and I may have met many of you at pop-ups in the past, so if I have, hello again.
Yeah, and I'm Heather Wolfenden. I am the other co-founder of Bloom Collective and Shop Bloom PVD. When I am not working with Bloom, I own a business called Island Vintage. It's a brick and mortar vintage and designer clothing store out on Martha's Vineyard. I started my business doing pop-ups, just like lots of other folks like you guys, about, I don't know, almost a decade ago, and have now been able to grow my business to a really lovely point. And obviously with Bloom, we really love working with small businesses, especially around this time of year. So we're going to run through a bunch of really great stuff today, but if at any point, like Kara said, you have any questions, please throw it in the chat. And we're really here for you guys. So we have plenty of time left over at the end to spend some quality time going through all this great stuff too.
All right, so today we're going to run through what we are calling our Holiday Pop-Up Playbook. And as someone who is currently prepping for SOA Winterfest, the holidays are definitely upon us. And we really hope that this workshop helps you gear up for an even more successful season, and that it gets you thinking about ways that you can intentionally connect with your customers and increase your average order value and setting yourself up for long-term success. So while we go through this presentation, we did send over a worksheet that kind of goes along with it. So if you have that printed out, have it on your computer, you can keep that, as a key tool to use for you to essentially personally implement all of this good stuff into your own businesses that we're going to talk about today.
We will reserve some time at the end to go through the worksheet individually, but as we're kind of going through this, if you find any point where you're like, oh, that's a great note and you want to jot down, please take the time to do so. So first thing we're going to get started on is really like marketing smarter and focusing on pre-event visibility. We always have a little bit of a funny time when we're showcasing, this presentation. So I did initially have some videos in here, but I was like, you know what, let's be safe. We're going to leave them as photos. But I did go online and try to find a couple of really good TikToks in particular, because we've been seeing a lot of growth on TikTok on great ways to market an event or a pop-up that somebody's doing. So if you guys do want to jot down these two folks here, they're both like super, really lovely small businesses that have done a really great job of marketing their pop-ups. A Cute Little Stitch and Munchies by Mallory. One is really like an embroidery company. The other one is a pop-up bakery. And they did a really wonderful job of, pre-event visibility for a pop-up they were doing. So when it comes to markets, we really want for you guys to kind of think about this as like shifting your mindset from just showing up to a market to really like building a momentum, getting up to that point. Because even if you're at a market for just a single day, it's really an opportunity for like a multi-day brand discovery kind of situation. A lot of people nowadays are checking out vendors well in advance. They're checking out the events that they're doing well in advance. They're saving posts, they're tagging their friends, whether that's on TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. A lot of folks have already made mental notes before they even come to the markets in the first place. So you want to make sure that you catch them before they even come into the door. And part of that catching them ahead of time is really like priming your audience. So you really want to think about building anticipation and awareness at the same time. I want you to kind of like put your thinking caps on to feel like Kara for a little bit here and think like the market host. Like Kara can't just be like, hey, we're doing this market on Tuesday, like it doesn't really work like that. There's a lot that leads up to it. So like Boston Women's Market is out there, they're promoting the event. So think about when you're doing your own promotion for the event, tagging them, of course, if you haven't really thought about doing that in the first place, reposting their content and sharing their graphics, because like you really want to kind of essentially join their marketing team if you can. And I'm sure Kara can attest that like they notice that. Vendors who are actively sharing and engaging with a market post not only are getting reshared, which is like free exposure for you and your business to all the people that are already following Boston Women's Market and other markets like that, but it really is an opportunity to like showcase to the market organizer that you care and that you are going to consistently promote. And especially nowadays with markets being so competitive to get into, like that's the type of stuff that your market organizers want to see, that you are promoting and you're part of the community. And a lot of that leads back to, again, not just posting the day before that you're going to be at a market, leading 3 weeks ahead of time, 2 weeks ahead of time, 1 week ahead of time, and making sure that what you're doing is not just saying, I'm going to be at this market, but really working to like tell a story about why you're going to be there, what that market is. So instead of like, come see me this Saturday, maybe you can share like why this market matters to you. Maybe it's the last one of the year. Maybe you made something special for it or something special for the holidays. Maybe there's a personal meaning behind it. If there's not, you can really just kind of like work to tell the narrative of your business in a way that makes people really excited to have something to do with you. Even if you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this special promotional thing where it's 3 for 25 or whatever the number is that you want people to know about for the market, even if you were planning to do that anyways, you can really kind of push it out as something that's really special just for that particular market. So that way people feel like they have like a little bit of special insight and they have a reason to come to see you in particular. Part of that too is like warming up your audience really early. So again, if you're starting to post 2-3 weeks out, you're just starting to tease what's coming, show the materials that are arriving for it, post like a quick story of your booth setup that you've done before, so they kind of know what to visually anticipate when they see you in the first place. And these like small little casual updates are helping to build anticipation. So that way, every time that they hop on Instagram, they're getting like a little bit of a reminder, oh, that's right, they're going to be doing that market in a couple weeks. That seems like a really great market that I certainly can't miss out on. And you really want to kind of like hone in on that because essentially when you're using the pre-event time to create visibility, you're almost pre-qualifying your customers. So when somebody walks up to your booth and they're like, hey, I saw that you posted about this special candle, like I'm so excited to come check it out. these are like really warm leads for your business. Those are the easiest people that you're going to be able to convert to purchase from you in the first place. And I know it's like we talk about it all the time. Savannah and I are always telling our clients and the businesses we work with, like consistency is key, but especially for markets. Like I know some people just assume that the market promoters are going to get people in the door and it's going to be great. And that is part of what they do for sure. But like you are going to set yourself up so much better for success if you're telling your customers what to anticipate and giving them a reason to like specifically stop at your booth.
Yeah. Do we want to touch on any of the questions that were dropped in the chat that are specific to that slide, or we want to save them to the end?
So I can't see those, so feel
Okay.
free to read them out.
We do have one question from Kimberly, and she says, how do we do this when we're going to be at 12 events over the next 2 months? So, hitting on that, we're usually not a one-trick pony, right? All of us are doing so many different things. How can we really, like, our time is really one of our most valuable assets we have. So how do we fit all this in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that is like sharing a market calendar to make sure that, you are still tagging the market folks for the specific markets that you're joining, but also being like, here's my November calendar, like join me for one of these things, especially if you have a little bit more of a robust calendar, ensuring that that's on your website so that people can interact with it and see what's going on there. I'm sure that a lot of your prep for one market is really conducive to your prep for another market. So you can tag multiple people in there, say, these are the products that I'm getting prepared for these particular markets. We've talked a lot with Kara about like recycling your content. You don't have to be recreating the wheel every time for all of these markets. Use the same content, tag the same people, just make sure that it's known that you're still going to be at a multitude of different places. We do always like laugh at the fact that so many people are hesitant to say the same thing twice because they're like, I already posted that and I don't want to annoy my customers or people. And it's like, people didn't see it, like you have to understand that people need to see what you're posting a bunch of times, and you should post it on multiple different platforms. So put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn, email people. If you have an email list, tell them that you're going to be at markets in November, even if that's only like 2 people that come because of Facebook, or 2 people that come because of Instagram, 2 people that could become, there because of TikTok. All of a sudden you've created this much broader and wide net, as opposed to if you just posted all that stuff on Instagram. And if you're posting the same stuff across the board, you're saving yourself a lot of time too at the end of the day.
Yeah, very much
your question. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can of course go back to that topic at the end if you still have some more questions. But essentially, the next step of this lovely worksheet is essentially to really get everyone to prep to actually sell and convert. So when thinking about what you might pack up or bring to your holiday events this year, it's important to really remember that at this time of year, everyone has gifting specifically on their minds. And the more that you can do to position your business to be ready for those, quick purchases, those gift ready items, the better off you'll be. So when attending events, shoppers are often overwhelmed by the amount of vendors, options, and just a general task of buying for a long list of loved ones. I know we all feel this. So anything that you can do to essentially like ease that process, the better off you'll be. So at markets, you really only truly have a few seconds to catch someone's attention, especially in like a very busy holiday market with hundreds of vendors. So the key is really to spotlight your best sellers instead of overwhelming people with like 25 different options. So think of your table as a curated gift display, not necessarily your entire online store. And I think that's a really key thing to consider here, is that you don't need to bring every last thing that you sell to be successful at an event. It just has to be the right the right products for that particular event at the right time of year. So it's really important to consider how you might add a bit of value to your customer shopping experience through assisting with some of the fatigue. So depending on your product line, you might decide that the holidays are a perfect time to focus in on what we call a hero lineup. So with those best-selling brand-defining products that you currently sell, you can capture interest quickly so customers know what you do best without a second thought. A great example of this is a candle vendor who, instead of bringing all 12 scents they make, maybe focus on 3 or 4 hero scents, the ones that sold best online or in person, or that they know do best during the holidays. So like seasonality is an important thing here as well. And they instantly made their booth feel cohesive and premium because of sort of this tailored experience. Customers generally would spend less time deciding on which candle to buy and more time actually purchasing from you. And generally checkouts would be faster, and often, these folks could be sold out at the end of the day, especially if they only have a few, they might only have 4 products available to buy, but they have obviously stock enough to make that worthwhile for them. And generally one thing that's really important here, especially during the holidays, is clear price tags and simple signage. I know it feels like the basics, but it is super important. So people, shopping at these busy markets are shopping relatively quickly. If someone has to ask you about a price or guess like what's for sale and what's not for sale, you may lose them. Essentially at any kind of, market where your booth is getting really crowded and lots of people are looking for your attention and you're trying to take care of customers and wrap things. So it's like, just the clearer that you can be and the more streamlined you can make your processes, especially during busy holiday time, the better off that you'll be. So the first thing, definitely to consider is, the goal of reducing decision fatigue to boost your sales speed and give every customer a clear, easy shopping path at your booth. And so fewer options and faster checkouts usually equals happier shoppers, especially at a time of year like this. And I know I saw a couple of questions potentially come up in the chat.
Yeah.
Let me take a look at that. Safety measures when posting online about where you'll be. That's yeah, Heather, do you have any thought on that?
Sorry, can you read that one?
The question was about safety measures when posting online about where you'll be.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you have anything to weigh in on that, Kara, but at least from my initial perspective, I'd say that like as long as you're posting from your business account, I would make sure that you really kind of separate your personal self from your business self. If you are worried about any sort of like safety or concerns or things like that too. But I think it's definitely more than appropriate to post where you're going to be for a holiday pop-up via your business. I'd love to hear too if there's any like specific concerns about that that we could address.
Yeah, and that's definitely a question too, like that maybe post workshop, that might be an offline kind of question if it's something that might be a little bit more personal that you're concerned about too, Karen.
Absolutely. Is there anything else, Savannah?
You can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Beautiful. Okay, the next part we really want to talk about is converting shoppers. When you really get into like business school and all kinds of fun things, people always throw around the term conversion a lot, but essentially that whole idea is really just turning browsers in your booth into actual buyers. So how do we make that happen? It's just creating more shopping from the people who are already visiting your booth. And you really have to think about how valuable it is to have somebody in your physical space as it is. That takes a little bit of work in and of itself. So when they're there, you've already kind of like stepped forward into that like customer purchase. So how can we like finalize that and make sure that that makes sense for people to purchase from you? And it's really just a few like really small tweaks that can really do that. Think about, when you've attended a market as a customer, if you ever have. I know that Savannah and I like a couple years ago went to a market as just customers and we're like, wow, is this what it's like for people? Because we're just so used to, being the one behind the booth. And you have to get into the mindset too, where a lot of market goers are in there initially, at least to browse around. They're in like a let's look around mindset. Maybe they'll come back. They're not totally ready to buy yet. The holidays can be a point where people are a little bit more prime to buy than usual. But think about the fact that like your job isn't necessarily to like hard sell people and convince people immediately that they need to buy your product, especially verbally, because that can be a little aggressive. I'm not a good salesperson in particular. Like I don't like to sell people on my products. And you don't necessarily have to be that way either. You can just kind of work to make sure that your business is kind of working for you on the back end for that. A really nice thing to do is like let your visuals do a lot of the talking. We spoke about clear signage. signage, but like little signs that say gifts under $25. Like even if you have a whole thing and all your gifts are under $25, let people know that visually right away, because that's the type of thing where somebody might go, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for, a quick gift for my neighbor. I don't want to spend too much money. Let me go over there right away. Or if you want to just say all gifts local and handmade, like things that people really care about or that are really important to your business in particular. 10% of profits go towards X, Y, and Z charity. Anything that you care about that you think people are also going to care about, like make sure it's very clear and understood from a relatively like far distance. So that way people don't have to like kind of squint, come closer, see what's going on. You want to have really clear signage so that people can scan it and use these visual cues to decide if your booth is something that they want to pay attention to and stop at like almost right away. Another really nice way to do this is to like make gifting feel really effortless. So if you have things that are already wrapped up, ready to go, craft paper, a box, a ready to go gift tag, like this, you've already kind of done the work for somebody and they can look at that even if they weren't intending to buy right away and go like, oh my God, that's going to make my life so much easier. And they can just buy it right away. Think about all of the barriers that people are put up against in the holiday shopping season and just make it as simple and easy for them as possible, especially when they're shopping for multiple people throughout the day. If they can just grab one of your items and it's already ready to go, and it doesn't have to be this crazy fancy thing. It can just be like simple wrapping, a bow, a gift tag, something that's not going to cost you too much money either. You can even ask if they want something gift wrapped for a little bit more money. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. And I also be sure to lead with like service again, and not so much sales when people come to your booth. Even just changing the, can I help you find anything, to like, are you shopping for gifts today? Are you shopping for yourself? Anything that feels like you're going to be able to extract a little bit of important information while still helping them. Some people do not want to be spoken to, and that's totally fine too. I'm sure you kind of get the feeling when people come up to the booth, but just kind of be there, give a nice hello. You don't have to be like too overly in somebody's face. I think some people are going to want to be spoken to like substantially, and you could have conversations with them as you so choose, but also keep in mind that it's important to like be fast around the holidays. So maybe work on your wrap up skills, if you get stuck in a conversation with somebody, so you're ready to kind of go forward. And speaking on like the speed of that too, I'm somebody that's really guilty of like setting up my booth so beautifully and then giving myself like 1 foot where I will check out, just so that way I've like used the entirety of my space. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just check out people over here. And it causes such a snag up. If you've ever worked in a restaurant or are familiar with a restaurant, they have this thing called like a mise en place, if I'm saying it correctly, where basically when you're behind the line in the kitchen, they have all of the things that like, your spices, and you have your cut fruits and vegetables and things that you're like creating on your dish, and you just have everything lined up really nice and clean and organized. And like I want you to consider having a space like that in your booth, that you have your own kind of like business mise en place, where you have like your like checkout station, you have a spot for people to bring their things, you have your bags and tags and everything ready to go, so you don't even have to think twice. You know where everything is intuitively. You can check people out super quick, because all it really takes is for you to be snagged up a little bit trying to find the right bag and doing a thing, and somebody else was ready to check out and you didn't even see them, and then they're like, you know what, there's a candle vendor across the way, they're empty, I'm just going to go over there. Like customers are extremely finicky, so I think every kind of like easing out every opportunity for them to not buy something is really the goal here. And so a lot of things we want to talk about, or I guess a big thing we want to talk about here too, is like being sure to capture your post-sale momentum. And again, being quick with that. Sometimes it's not easy to be like, hey, can I have your email address? Can I do this? Can I do that? So a couple things that we generally recommend is one, having some sort of like physical card or postcard or something that you can put in a bag that directs your customers to how you want to interact with them next, whether that's like visiting you online with a coupon code, or following you on Instagram, or giving you a Google review. It's really like what you value the most and you want people to do the most. I would really refrain from asking them to do more than one thing, because then it gets to be a little convoluted, where if you just say, please do this one thing, I appreciate you so much, thanks so much for supporting my small business, etc., they're much more likely to convert to do whatever it is that you want to do if you ask them that one thing. And also I think that there's a lot of value in some like actual just like email sign-up sheets on a paper that's tucked to a point where it's not in the way of people shopping, and you can still collect information from somebody that you might not be able to necessarily connect with one-on-one personally. And it's just like a nice easy way way to grab information from somebody, having a little QR code on your booth that says, follow me on Instagram, where you don't necessarily have to direct somebody there, but you just have little touch points here and there where you can work to convert that person outside of just a single holiday gift shopper to somebody that hopefully, shops with you more than that, at the end of the season too.
I totally agree with the email list.
We have it at our brick and mortar that we did like a beautiful build out and design, all kinds of fancy things. Like we still have a clipboard on our table with a email sheet because that gets more conversions than in our like nice fancy POS checkout because people like to write it down. They feel like they're part of something. It's a little old school and we like it too.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to figure out what they actually wrote as their email address.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a struggle.
All right, so we're going to talk about boosting revenue. So essentially, now that your display is all set up and your best sellers are front and center, we can talk about how to actually boost your revenue through upsells and bundles. Because here's the truth, most customers are already pretty much ready to buy. You just need to help them spend a little smarter. So bundles will feel like a deal and upsells will feel like you care for them. Both are powerful ways to increase your average sale without needing more actual customers. So just a simple like $10 ads at every purchase, you could essentially have converted over the course of a market season, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of additional revenue, which is really amazing. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do this and a lot of the things the customer may already be looking for or asking for. So if you just think about the products you already have, you possibly always get asked upon checkout, if you also sell X, Y, and Z. For example, like a candle vendor who, they're like, oh, do you have some cute matches to go with my candle so I can like give it as a nice little gift? So customers are potentially already telling you what they're looking for. So why not make the natural connection and add value to their purchase and essentially more revenue to, your holiday season. So I think that there's a lot of different ways that every business can do this, and it's, very much individualized, but that extra $5, $10, $20 upon checkout can really add up very quickly. Another example is building a like 3 for $25 bundle or something along those lines. If let's say that's a tea vendor, who has 3 teas that they now sell for $25 versus, each individual tea at like, I don't know, $8, $9, $10 or something along those lines, they could have potentially really boosted their average order value. And the beauty of that kind of deal is that people feel like they're getting more value for their money, so they're more likely to spend more. And, it also encourages them to try multiple scents or flavors and kind of really fall in love with your brand, which I think is a great opportunity for you in terms of like, longevity of a customer past the holiday season. And raising your average order value can have a huge impact on the revenue you generate at a single event or over an entire season or year. And the holidays are a great time to kind of dive in when people are already primed for shopping. So I'm not saying reinvent the wheel right now, but I think in most folks' businesses, there is something they can do that may play into this, bundle or upsell that kind of feels like a natural next step that they're just, not quite trying out yet. So the goal here is to really make customers feel cared for and not sold to. So bundles really make it feel like you are getting a deal, and upsells, kind of are a personal touch at, at the checkout counter potentially. And both of those can transform a $20 sale into a $40 one very quickly, simply by adding, a clarity, care, and intention with your checkout processor, the way that you are displaying your products, selling your products, and these little tweaks, make a huge difference.
Yeah, for example, in my own store, I sell rings, different costume rings. They are $8 or 2 for $15. You only save $1 if you buy 2. But I think it's about like 75% of my customers buy 2 rings instead of 1 ring, because they almost can't say no to a deal, even if it's like a little deal. They get really, it's exciting. It's like fun. It's almost like, well, I have to buy another one.
Yeah.
And they enjoy that too. They feel like they got a little bit of a deal. They got 2 things. It's really fun, and it certainly is a revenue booster for me as well.
Yeah, a little bit of like gamifying the shopping process too, and I think that they're, especially with the point that Heather brought up before about this like really wonderful checkout experience that you could create even at a market, this is an opportunity to essentially have a checkout counter where you do have those upsells, where you do talk about the bundle, where you do kind of ask someone for, you know, their email address or get them to scan a QR code. So, you know, just being really intentional about that touch point that they're going to have with you or whoever is working for you during the holiday season can really mean, you know, a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And even at the store here at Shop Bloom PVD, we see a lot of folks that are doing really particularly well because they have a range of price points. So if you essentially have a lot of items priced at like $40 and you don't have anything below that, maybe it's an opportunity to sell like prints or cards or stickers at a lower price point that people can add on to purchases, or even just you can convert somebody that otherwise wouldn't have spent that kind of money on, you know, another item. So this is our cute little like holiday guy here who's asking if you have any questions. We have lots from the online signups, but I'd really prefer to hear from you guys directly to see if there's anything in particular that we didn't touch base on. We tried to keep it short enough that we could really save room for this. So this is definitely an opportunity to hear from us. And Kara, if we don't know the answer, because Kara's so great. Yeah, so please go right ahead.
And if you don't want to unmute yourself or turn on your camera, it's totally fine. You can put your questions in the chat.
And we will go over the worksheet after this too, just so everybody knows.
And we do have a Kimberly put in a comment that she asks every customer if they would, she can have their email address after they make a purchase, and it helps her track repeat customers.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's so smart.
Very important.
I had a question actually, and I mean, and so in relation to bundles and savings, is there one that you find was more effective than the other? So we said bundles and savings, we said upsales, and during the holidays, I see a lot of free gift with purchase, and I always wonder, like, is free gift with purchase just giving away too much? Or is it really not affecting your bottom line and you should really stick to something like bundles or upsells?
I mean, personally, I kind of think that that's a stronger move. I think that a lot of times you don't necessarily want to give someone something extra that you have to pay for if they're already going to make a purchase from you and it doesn't really make a difference. I would
Yeah.
say free something with purchase is not a terrible thing, especially if you're giving something out that's like super fun and is going to like help brand awareness or like push things in the right direction for you. But if it's just a thing that is like, you know, not necessarily adding any value or extra, you know, revenue to your experience at a market, then I would personally recommend to go the, you know, bundle upsell kind of route. I feel like you'll, you know, your customers will still feel like they're having an added value. And a lot of times you're sort of answering you're solving a problem for them because they're usually going to like want that additional thing, or they're going to be like, oh, I really wanted to buy this, you know, bag of tea, but like it doesn't quite work for like, it doesn't feel like a full gift. So that's also a whole nother thing. There's like a psychology behind it as well. So like maybe the tea also needs a mug, or maybe the tea also needs a tea strainer, or maybe, you know, something along the lines of that, where you could have just solved the problem for them and also made more money,
Yeah.
which I think is best case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that totally makes sense. We do have one question from Yulia, and she asked, how does Boston Women's Market promote markets? So I think that's a little bit off topic for tonight's maybe workshop, and it's a very, very long answer. So Yulia, I'm totally happy to, you know, converse offline about that and tell you all about what we do. It's quite extensive.
Yeah, I can start pulling a little bit from the questions that we
Yeah.
received online. One really good one is, how do you find holiday pop-up markets to sell at? I'd say that there's a variety of different answers to this. For me personally, like I had joined a lot of Facebook groups. That was super helpful, especially in your local area, whether it was New England, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, whatever, makers and merchants and all kinds of like fun crafting types of groups. Some are really like irrelevant, and maybe they'll tell you about like, you know, some of more like crafty auctions and things like that. But sometimes there's some really great nuggets of information there. On Instagram, I just follow a lot of amazing accounts like Boston Women's Market, or people that are, or New England Open Markets, or just markets that are typically like a little bit more regular. And then I also like, I think using Savannah as a great example. Savannah, I always loved what she was doing. And I would see what markets that she was doing, so that I knew for next year I should pay attention to when the applications opened up for that. So if there's somebody that you admire, you know, I think it's important to kind of know where people are spending all their time and energy, you know, popping up at. If there's like a repeat kind of you know, theme that you see of all the people that you like are going to a particular market, you know, maybe that kind of cues you into, hey, that's a place that I should pay attention to. Yeah, so that's how I would find them. So if anybody else has any insight.
Yeah, and I would just say too, like in my experience, the vendor community loves sharing tips and tricks with each other.
Yeah.
So if there is someone that you admire, DM them and ask them, you know, what their experience has been at X, Y, and Z market. And people are, you know, more than happy to share with you their successes, or maybe things that they didn't enjoy about certain locations or certain environments or organizers or things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's not necessarily going to be the same experience for you. So I think, you know, take everything with a grain of salt and understand that like
very true.
you might have a bang out day at that market if you showed up. So it's definitely important to just show up and try things out. I would say, you know, every business, there's a bit of risk and trial and error. But once you kind of get into a groove and start to, you know, essentially find your community within the vending space, and also just figure out like what markets, you know, are bringing the right kind of customers that are looking for products like yours at the right price points. I mean, there's a lot of diversification as to like who the market organizer's target audience is. So you got to kind of figure that out and then align it with your target audience. We did have a question from Savannah saying, what's a good site or company to get gift cards? Are you asking about gift cards for your business specifically? I mean, my recommendation would be, you know, like for example, like Shopify, you can actually purchase, you can create digital gift cards on Shopify, and then you can also purchase physical gift cards if you use their POS system. I would say, I believe Square has a version of this too, right? That it's essentially whoever you use for your
I
POS
think I
system.
described it incorrectly. It's been a long day. I've been up since like
That's
3
okay.
a.m. I'm talking about like the actual, not a gift card, like to purchase something, the cards, like the thank you cards. I should have said thank you cards.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you,
okay.
card.
Yeah,
Yeah. Are you looking for like you want to design something and get it printed at a,
yeah.
okay.
And what I've realized from my experience, sometimes you see things online and it's a really good ad, and then you order and you get it and it's not good quality. But
Mhm.
I figured because it's such a short timeline to
Yeah,
get ready for the holidays, and that was a suggestion in terms of getting like making the gift as easy as possible for someone. So it's like if you package it and then they also have a card to
yeah.
give to the person. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, if you don't need something super custom, you can definitely just find sort of a simple, you know, gifting tag of some sorts like online, and maybe just add it as an upsell. If you want something super custom and branded, one company that I really love, which is actually local in Rhode Island, is Moo, and it's just like Moo, like the cow. Um, but they do a great job and have, you know, really great customer service.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Thank
would
you.
definitely recommend it. We have another really great question that somebody asked earlier. How do you prepare enough but not too much product for both potential online sales and in-person pop-up markets, especially during the holiday season? Savannah, you are the product expert if
Oh,
you
sorry, I
like.
was reading a question in the chat.
Awesome.
So yeah, I would say just, you know, not having too many new products around the holidays, so you can essentially, or like don't create a bunch of new stuff that you can't use year round, unless you're truly someone who kind of goes through these seasonal you know, changes. I would say to look at your sales numbers from past years and actually break down you know, your goals into how many products you need to sell to make a holiday event worthwhile, especially depending on the cost, and the amount of traffic that, you know, event organizer could say maybe in past years was attending that event, asking other folks who attended those specific events in the past, although it does differ business to business. You know, depending on the product you sell, you may actually, you know, very likely sell 20 to 40% more during the holidays than your average sale event. So if you have an average market day, you know, maybe you make like $500 on an average market day. And then during the holiday season, that might be like $700 to $1,000 on an average market day. So just to bring enough product to essentially, you know, meet those sales goals, I think is really a good thing to consider. But really past data will tell a lot about, you know, how many products you sold on a given day, even looking at, you know, previous holiday seasons, and then thinking about, okay, well, has my business grown? Has the event, you know, grown their attendance or capacity? You know, they can actually answer a lot of those questions for you if you ask, and any good event host will have like some metrics to provide you.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are looking to make 200 of this widget for the holiday season, and you do the math and you're like, oh man, that would be, you know, $10,000, and that's 10x more than I've ever made before during the holiday season, you can go, okay, maybe I can like pull my widgets back a little bit. I don't need to make any, you know, just really, again, look at your data, do a little bit of reverse math, and really play with it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a question in the chat, Savannah?
Yes, there was a question from Daughter534. Hello. And are holidays a good time to use psychological pricing versus transparent pricing? Like $9.95 versus $10, which one works better? That is a tricky one. It really is business dependent. I would say in some businesses, depending on what you're selling, especially some more like luxury goods, it doesn't necessarily do the same thing. But it is a, you know, a well-known and effective sales tactic. So I wouldn't say it's something not to try. Heather, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
my
I mean,
products are like that now in general. Hi, Heather, Savannah, Kara,
Hi.
everyone. But I was wondering if I should just change it to make it easier, like for signage, like, oh, this tincture is $21 versus $20.98. And then you have the customer saying, oh, keep the change. And so I'm just like, maybe it should just be like regular numbers.
Yeah, do you get that keep the change thing often?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So maybe
Yeah,
that
so
just
I
says
was,
that someone's willing to spend the $20. You know, that's kind of my thought.
true.
I would give it a try. You know, at the end of the day, even that little price difference can mean, you know, more revenue in your pocket, and also less change that you have to give people.
True. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
do you want me to read off a question?
There is one more question in the chat, so I'm going to read that.
Beautiful.
When it comes to posting online for building anticipation, is there an app you recommend to be able to post once for all platforms, considering the busy schedule and working smarter? I'll start there. Heather, do you have any thoughts?
Unfortunately, I do everything manually. I know that there's a lot of really great scheduling apps and things like that that you can really load into. We've used a variety of different things, but I just prefer to do things manually. There's a lot of back and forth research as to whether or not platforms actually care if you're doing it manually or if you're scheduling posts. I don't know if there's any actual concrete evidence for any of that. But yeah, we just go in and we keep a schedule and we just try to post daily on as many platforms as we can. Yeah, unless Kara has anything, I'm just like,
I mean,
unfortunately not.
I don't know anything that is like concrete the way to go, but I know that the way that AI is going these days, it's probably something you could use to automate a lot of those you know, posts. But a lot of these you know, platforms are already connected. So like Instagram, Facebook, you got, you know, an easy one there where you can just kind of share content seamlessly. But I know that there are some disconnections, and also, you know, depending on how heavily you're trying to strategize here, some, you know, platforms, I think certain types of content do better than other types of content. So that's just something to consider. But definitely like reusing your, like, you know, you can reuse what you post in an email and then make it into a blog post and put that on your website, and then also put that potentially partially on, you know, Instagram, or make a, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can sort of take the same like basic information and you know, and tweak it a couple of times.
Mm. There are like a lot of in my experience, and I've tried a lot of these tools like Later, Planio, Hootsuite was like one of the original ones to kind of like centralize info. But my problem with those is always that there's some type, and Savannah, I think you hit on this, there's some type of disconnect between that planner and what is actually being posted on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and whatever. Like, for example, like in one suite it'll tag a location, in the other suite it will not tag the location, so I have to manually go edit the post, tag the location. Or I noticed that in one of them I can invite a collaborator, and the other one I can't invite the collaborator, so I have to manually go back and do that. So I've actually resorted to using the native schedulers within the systems I'm using. So I now use Meta's native scheduler. I use Pinterest's native scheduler because it just works better for me.
Yeah.
But everyone has such different opinions about it. And they all have free trials. So you can go and play around with them. If there's one that you like, then definitely, try it out.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
really helpful just because like I also hi. Thank you so much for hosting this. It's been great. Yeah, I just kind of feel like I'm a little bit more old school and wanting to be able to like do it myself, but I just wasn't sure if like investing the time in those apps and having people that have had the experience, it's like, is this actually worth it? And I feel like even hearing your experience, Kara, it's like you end up creating more work for yourself in some ways, and it's like
Sometimes.
yeah, it's just not worth it to do it in the holiday season. So maybe that's a next year thing. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had another question as well. So would you recommend both price tags and having price signs? I think this really depends on what you're selling. I think that in some cases it can't hurt. But you know, if it feels, especially if your price tag on your products, like individually, is very visible, maybe you don't necessarily need the sign. But the sign could be a nice way, especially for like something like a bundle or an upsell, like to sort of get people into the like, oh, there's a deal here, and you know, maybe kind of really involved in the shopping experience, where maybe just having like simple price tags on your products that aren't kind of talking to how they could potentially buy more and save. I think that's a really nice moment for a price sign versus a price tag, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'd say too, if you have people that are often buying your product without hesitation and they're like, oh, it's only $15, amazing. And they're always buying this one particular thing, advertising that thing is like, hey, this is $15, where people might not otherwise interact and grab the product and understand it's such a great price. Like if you have a deal or you think is a deal that you need to share with people, I think that's a really nice opportunity to let people know. If you have like a little discount rack or whatever the thing is that you want people to know about right away, don't just assume that they intrinsically will understand or know that that's going to be an inexpensive piece. And if you want to be a little bit more higher end, or you have more higher end pieces, maybe it doesn't make sense to be like $200 for these things.
Yeah,
People are not going to be like, wow, that's it. And they come right over. But, in terms of converting, if you think something can convert somebody as they're walking by as a quick gift that they can check out of the crowd, then I would say that that's a nice opportunity to advertise as well.
Yeah, and usually the customer buying that $200 thing is a different type of customer potentially. And I think every business, you've already had experience, selling your individual products. So I think just kind of tapping into also just thinking through that process, what questions people are asking you, what things they do without hesitation, and kind of lean into that a little bit. We have another question, which is, this one has come up from a few vendor friends. Should we have a tip jar on the table? I haven't done it, but more than a few vendors have suggested it. This is an interesting one. I think it's not, in my opinion, it's not the norm in retail. I think that you know, I understand that like in a way you are doing a service, but it is not something that I for personally would find it to be a little bit of like a turnoff, but that's just me. I think it's a individual case by case basis.
Yeah, I personally feel the same way. I think if you are explicitly providing a service, like if you're doing free gift wrapping or something, and then maybe you have like a little jar with like $1 in it or something like that, great, that makes sense, and people can buy into that or not. But I think that people are getting to a point with tipping culture where like they are losing their marbles with Starbucks asking for a tip. So just be wary that should you do that, you might make somebody feel a certain type of way about it. Do you have an opportunity to make a couple dollars from somebody? Maybe, but like, it's really just a matter of if you're willing to lean into that kind of risk versus reward situation. I think maybe we should, just because I know not everyone's going to be here till 8, we should maybe go on to the worksheet, and then we can reserve the rest of the time for questions. And if anybody would like to leave after that, that's totally fine. So if we want to take a moment to take a gander at the email that Kara sent with the actual worksheet, or perhaps you just want to look at it here and kind of just see maybe an opportunity to take some notes down. But we really wanted this to be an opportunity for you guys to think on and consider some of the things that we said and put them down in like a very concise way that's pretty tangible for you to take a peek at. So I'll go into step 1, which is really, again, about that like pre-event marketing plan, where really you could just think on at least just a single teaser post idea. So whether or not you want to feature a bundle that you're doing, or you want to showcase a specific event that you're doing, and again, why it matters to you that you're doing that particular event to last the season, you're doing the special item, etc. You can write down a little bit of the teaser post idea, and then also like where you're going to be sharing that out. And consider your outreach channels to be maybe outside of just simply Facebook or Instagram. Where can you reach other people as well? A lot of times, like I said, Facebook groups are kind of a really awesome and interesting place to find good information and to find customers that maybe you might not be exploring because it feels a little bit old school. But some of those groups, especially locally, are hyper active, and it's really cool to tap into that market as well. So just let us know if you have any questions. I still can't see the questions on here, so Savannah, let me
You were so good.
if anything's going on. So yeah, step 2 there is going to be hero and supporting products. Again, when we did a really lovely workshop that Kara came to Shop Bloom PVD here recently, one of her like really amazing nuggets of advice that a lot of people commented on were that you really should not be bringing your entire like store loads worth of stuff. And it could feel like you should do that because you're like, these are all the things I have and I want everybody to see what I have, but it gets to be too overwhelming and too stressful for people to even sort through what you have in the first place. So think about like, what are your hero products? Like literally 2 or 3 products that you want to sell the most of, that sell the most for you. Jot those down and keep in mind that you want to reserve very specific space for them in your booth. You want to create more of a presentation behind them. You want to direct people towards your hero products. If people have limited time and they're just zooming around, like what are they going to notice first in your booth? And how can you make that happen? And then you could have a few really lovely supporting products that are maybe like a little bit lower price, easier to grab, whether that's like stickers, cards, not necessarily just 2D items, but things that feel like a nice add-on, matches to your candles, etc. Not necessarily like the bundles themselves, but like other products that people are going to be purchasing. So I'd write that down so that way you can really like physically look at this and go, okay, maybe I'm getting a little crazy with my packing. Like, am I going to a point where I have 50 different SKUs that are coming to the market and people are not going to understand what I'm even selling in the first place? And how do I avoid that? Savannah, would you like to take the next couple? We'll switch off.
Absolutely. So step 3 would be to really focus on your brand story. So essentially, kind of a one-liner that you can have, market ready to say that will essentially connect with your customer right away and have them understand, what you do, what you sell. Like for example, I create small batch ceramics inspired by coastal New England living. Not saying you have to, say that to every customer that walks in the door, but just to, have a little bit of a loose script that you can, especially, this is the most important thing, like if you are staffing your holiday markets and you're not going to be the one personally there, essentially some kind of intro that you can provide them that will help them sort of explain what you do better, approach customers in a way that you would approach them. Because you already have this kind of right on top of mind because it's what you do, you know, all the time. But for folks that you're hiring, you definitely want to kind of prepare them a little bit for, you know, how to make that happen in a way that feels really good for you and your business, so that they, you know, keep coming back even after that initial purchase. And then step 4 being your customer phrases. So this also kind of goes into the quick readings and the gift cues that we were kind of talking about with like upsells and bundles. You know, asking them if they're actually looking for a gift under $25. If you know, you sell one, you have it ready to go. You might also have signage that says that. You know, and then also asking people, hey, do you need gift wrapping? You know, even maybe before they've made their final decision, be like, hey, we also offer gift wrapping. And they might just be like, oh, that's all I needed to hear because this solves the whole problem for me. I can leave this market with a thing ready to go and I don't even need to think about it again. So, you know, definitely solving those problems for customers while they're in the process of shopping is really, really helpful. And then often, you know, it might feel a little awkward or pushy, but a lot of times you're sort of just saying the things they're looking to, or they're wanting to hear.
Yeah, I think reframing the mindset of not really being like salesy and being more informative and just making sure that they have all of the information that you can offer about your business and what you're able to sell, I think is a really nice way to think about it too. And the next step is like creating an upsell and a bundle offer. This is a fun exercise where even if you're not necessarily planning to do so for this holiday season or you're going to be implementing them, really think on, okay, if I am going to be creating a bundle with my products, how can I bundle? What price points can I bundle at? If I do something that's a little bit more mix and match, or maybe I can do a gift set, where there's like, maybe you typically are selling like tea, for example. Can you do tea with like a kettle and an actual like loose leaf tea holder? I don't even know the word, but like I'm looking at the stuff we have in the store here, like because people ask all the time, they're like, okay, what do I do with this loose leaf tea? Like I want to give it as a gift, but I don't know if this person has all the right tools in order to actually use this. So if you create a gift set, even if it's just a few of them to see how they do, and you can kind of test the market, it's like a really fun opportunity to kind of consider how to upsell like a $12 tea bag to suddenly a $40 purchase at the end of the day too. That feels like a full gift experience. And the upselling there too, that kind of like ties into that, small add-ons, upgrades, again, matches. Maybe you have special polishing cloths for jewelry. That's not just like a simple one that you just give away, but it's a little bit of like a specialty item that you got imported from somewhere and you really want to sell the folks on that this is something that your jewelry really needs to keep it, you know, from tarnishing, and that it's really going to help create kind of a better experience for it too. So just have fun with that. Think about how you can kind of work on upselling and bundling your things. Even if you're not implementing it this year, it's just something that you can try out in the future too. And what's cool about markets is that like you could try something at a market, and if it doesn't work, you don't have to do it again. Like it's not, nobody's holding you accountable to make sure that you're always offering the same thing. You can kind of test the waters a little bit. You want to be consistent with your pricing and with your brand and things like that too. But the markets really provide a nice opportunity to test something in live time and see how people respond and what kind of feedback you get. And then the last step we want everybody to have for the holidays is a measurable goal, like just one single realistic measurable goal, whether it's like, I want to sell a certain amount of product in cash or an actual quantity of the number of products. So I would look, especially if you have some sales figures from last year, if you made $4,000 the months of November and December last year, like, can you bump that up to $5,000 this year? And if you're looking at your market schedule and you're like, oh, geez, I don't know, I don't have that many markets, can you add another market in there to help make that happen? If you can't, then can we upsell and bundle and try to get your sales a little bit higher for the folks that you have an opportunity to convert? So I think just kind of framing the mind of like, okay, I have an actual goal. How can I physically hit that? And working backwards from that. Because it's easy to say, oh, I want to have a good season. Great. But like, what is the actual definition of that for you? And can you hit that number? Whatever that may be. And that maybe your measurable goal is like doing 2 successful markets because you're brand new, or a single market. And you want to make sure that your setup works for you. Like it doesn't have to be something too crazy, but it should be a goal. It shouldn't be something that you're definitely going to be doing. It should be be something that you're really like working towards. So that way you have something to strive towards, and shouldn't be too particularly easy. So that's our like little playbook. We recommend filling it out if you haven't already. And we just want to close this out, and we'll reserve plenty of time for more questions too. Savannah and I do lots of consulting for like small businesses. We do all kinds of like lovely services. If you guys ever actually need something, if you want to pop in the store for, like a minute in Providence, if you're ever around, please stop in and say hi. But if you do ever want to reach out to us, it's really like the best way to do so is via email. We are on our emails all the time. Even if you just have a little bit of a question of a follow-up about today, we are like pretty easy to contact and happy to reach out and have conversations with you guys. A lot of you here are already residents with us or are going to be residents with us at Shop Bloom PVD in December. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And for anybody that we haven't had a chance to meet yet, thank you so much for like joining us in the first place. We always love meeting everybody from Boston Women's Market. It's just such an excellent community. So thank you for your time today. Yeah, we can hop on to some more questions. And everybody's
and if anyone needs to hop off at this point, totally understand, but we can stay on a little bit longer to answer some questions. There were a couple that came into the chat. So one was, would you suggest putting a business card in each bag? And we kind of hit on this, that's a great lead opportunity for you to convert that customer into a repeat customer with maybe a little coupon code that brings them online, or has them sign up for your newsletter and then gives them something in return, or follows you on Instagram, that sort of thing.
Yeah, any sort of incentive you can give to somebody to do something usually converts a lot better than just like a business card. It's still nice if that's what you have, put it in, but if you can do a little bit of extra and say, hey, you get 10% off if you, sign up for our email list or buy something online, it just gives them more incentive to not just get rid of the card, at the end of the day.
Yeah, because whenever I see business cards like left behind, I'm like, I give it back to the vendor because I'm like, this is money. This is like 10 cents. Like, so if you're gonna spend the money to print something, make it work, like make it have a purpose and like a job to do,
Yeah. And you want to just think a lot about like, where are you putting your efforts into marketing or into like, converting customers outside of a market environment, and really point them in the right direction for that. So if it's like you got a brick and mortar and you want people to write you Google reviews because that really, really helps your local SEO and getting other people in the door, maybe that's the move. Or if you post a lot on social media and that's the main way you're like drawing the crowds, building your business, get them to follow you online. Or if you're like consistently email marketing and driving sales to your online store, get them to sign up on your email list for maybe like a little coupon code. So just be strategic about the things that you obviously spend money on and then give to customers, because like Kara said, business cards are very expensive, especially nice ones from Moo. Worthwhile. And I think customers will really love them, but just make them work for you a little bit more so they don't just end up in the trash.
Yeah, if I can share too, one thing that we did, and I'll pull it from our counter right here because I'm here, is that Savannah and I were getting a lot of people leaving business cards at the store that they wanted us to reach out at, and they would get lost, and some of our employees just didn't know what to do with them. So we got this like cute little box that's obviously going to be like super blurry because it's not going to let me show you, but we have a little box where we can, you can see a little bit of it, where we have these like fun little cards that are also blurry that go in the box. But basically we ask for the information that we need to reach out to people and make it a little bit of a fun, exciting thing where they could fill it out in person, stick it in the box, and we reach out to them afterwards, because we just saw what was causing a snag up and we just wanted to kind of mitigate any issues like that. So, pay attention to what your customers are asking for and asking about. If you're also offering a service, is there a way for them to fill out information instantaneously that you can follow up with them right afterwards about? Like, that's a really lovely opportunity to kind of like make materials that work for you too.
Yeah. And I also have found too, like at markets where, maybe you don't bring your whole product line, but maybe you have a like shoppable screen where people can, and you can have them purchase stuff, or you can place orders for them at an event on your online store. I've done that many times and actually have converted a lot of customers who are looking for specific things that I didn't have. But I'm like, hey, if you buy it at the market, maybe I'll like ship it for free, or I'll give you a little discount or something like that. So there are ways to kind of blend, the worlds and still capture the sale, even if you don't have the product physically at the event.
Do we want to pull a couple questions from what was submitted during
Absolutely.
registration?
Absolutely. So this is a good one. What do you recommend in terms of holiday decorations for a booth setup? I want to add festive decorations, but I'm concerned that they may make the booth too busy or create confusion about the products. What are your past experiences about what customers expect or like to see in terms of holiday setups?
So I would say that one of the key things that I would recommend to everyone is lighting. I would say lighting can feel really festive, but also works in your advantage, where a lot of these markets that you go to, there aren't spotlights on your products. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Hopefully, you're in a scenario where you have power, but if you don't, there's a lot of great lighting solutions, and any kind of lighting at an event definitely draws attention to what you're doing. And I'm not necessarily saying, you need multicolored, very much like Christmassy lights. I feel like, simple lighting that sets the tone and mood and really highlights your product. Whatever you're selling, I think can be lit in a way that really draws attention. My recommendation often is a bright string light if you're setting up a tent, that are great for visibility, but still feel festive and fun. Definitely staying clear of any overly busy decorations that don't really complement your products. Everything that you do to decorate is just specifically to further elevate your products. I think keeping this in mind is really important. So things with tablecloths with a little bit of sparkle, or winter greens, or simple bows. I'm not saying these are the only things that you can use, but things that customers will obviously know are not the thing you're selling, but something that is being added to your display to elevate it or to make it more festive. If it generally gets too elaborate and there's lots of little things on the table, the focus is generally drawn away from what you're actually looking to have them purchase. So it can be a little bit of a detriment if you go, too far. But I'd say things that kind of set the mood and tone, but don't distract, I think is what I would recommend.
Any more questions in the chat? I think I saw something pop up.
We do have one about discounts, which should bundles be the limit of the discount? She doesn't want to cheapen the brand.
Yeah, so I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's a personal decision, and I think it's definitely a case by case, business type by business type kind of strategy. Yeah.
100%. I mean, if your brand is a little bit more of is presented in an elevated way, if you have a little bit of higher price points, it might not make sense for you to discount your products, and you don't necessarily have to. Maybe it's just an opportunity again to pair your products with something that's a nice little upsell, or you can create a bundle where you're not necessarily giving a discount. You're just simply creating an actual giftable box where you have 2 to 3 of your own products, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a cheaper price than how that would be normally. It's just simply the convenience of putting those things together and offering it as kind of a thoughtful gift in and of itself too. Definitely personal choice. You never have to put your items on discount if you don't think that that'll do good for your brand.
Yeah, and I think just that the framing of the mindset of calling it a discount, I think can be, even if it is a little bit of a discount, it doesn't necessarily need to be referred to as that. And I think there's a lot of kind of creative ways, depending on what you sell, that you can go about that, and still get the same effect of folks buying more than one product, which is really the goal, is to, raise your average order value.
Yeah, that's a really nice metric to look at, especially if you're using typically Square or Shopify. Look at your average order value all of last year and look at it this year, because a business that's doing really well and is being is growing at a strong trajectory will see a little bit of an increase in that. It's not necessarily a crazy number, but if you can push that number up year over year, essentially what you can do is keep the same amount of customers and you're making a little bit of more money, especially as inflation grows and time goes on. You really should be keeping that number, progressively getting steadier too. Let me see if there's anything else here. Yeah, so Savannah, you can answer this question. What do you do for large scale exhibitions for the Christmas season?
Oh, as much preparation as possible. I would say definitely like focusing on your best sellers, and anything that is actually giftable in your line. I would say it's better to sell out of your top 5 products and to haul, everything that you have ever made under the sun. Definitely streamlining your display. So like I also feel like in terms of the shopping process, in terms of your decorations, often at a market where you are actually doing a larger showcase, to really think about how to not be doing display on a minuscule scale, but like how do you actually capture attention from afar? And a lot of these big events, you also have the opportunity to do a lot with like lighting and signage and setting something up that feels a little bit more like a permanent install, which is really nice. So, just think about like how brands decorate their windows for the holidays, and see if there's like elements of sort of designing on a larger scale that you can implement into your booth to capture someone's like attention from like, across an aisle or something along the lines of that. I would say, planning in breaks, if you have someone to assist you, or making friends with your neighbor vendor. But a lot of times during these holiday markets, like everyone is slammed nonstop. So it's great for sales, but not great for general fatigue on a multi-day event. So definitely, having someone else who you can at least give you a little bit of a break sometimes is really, really helpful. And I think it's also really important to always be, ready with backstock for an event like this, and just the consistency of kind of keeping your shelves stocked daily. This is something that gets easier as you do it more and more. It's definitely a little bit of a learning curve because you never really know at your first big event how much you're going to sell. But I think that, thinking through some of the metrics that we were talking about before is how many items did you actually sell, per day at a busy holiday season event last year? And then taking some of that information, potentially asking the market host, how many people do they expect to attend the event? How many people per day? And just try to see if you can, find some kind of, maybe not definitive information, because obviously retail is something that ebbs and flows. There could be a ton of traffic and not a lot of sales, but generally during the holidays, things are going to be stronger than usual in terms of sales. So yeah.
Maybe like one more, and then unless we have anybody pop up, I think this will be the last one.
Sounds good.
And this is a good one. Like, as a first-time vendor for the holiday season, what do you think is the most important thing to keep in mind when you're preparing? I think my biggest tip, we already really touched base on, which is like, don't bring everything that you have. Like, really just try to focus on displaying your few important hero products. Try to be really like clear and visibly sound with the things that you're putting out there. And I think also like giving yourself a little bit of grace. This is a learning opportunity. If I look at my first booth, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that was what I did, huh? And that progresses forward every year. Give yourself a little bit of an opportunity to grow and to learn things and to be okay with it. Take inspiration from other people too. Don't copy, but also it's okay to look at what people have done that you respect and like and go, okay, that's really cool. How can I do something like that of my own? And I think that's just kind of the nature of retail in general too, is like seeing something really great and try to making it your own. So I just, don't go too crazy. Just try to have fun and don't stress yourself out too much either. It's supposed to be a good time. Do we have any other questions, guys?
No, it doesn't look like it. This was great. I think there are so many different things that we hit on tonight that it's like, oh, can we talk a little bit more about this? Because like we can go deeper into that. So
Absolutely.
I'm really glad we got to hit on so many things. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming tonight, and Heather and Savannah for your seriously valuable insights and experiences. It really means so much that you guys have done all this for several years in person, have been through the ringer with all of us, and really know and understand what it means to sell at markets during the holiday season, and how impactful it can be for your small business, but also and fatiguing it could be too. So I think hopefully this was really helpful for everyone to help streamline your planning and kind of get a little energy and new ideas around things. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you as always for having us. And as a reminder, guys, like be kind to yourself, take some breaks. The holiday season can be really
Absolutely.
intense. So just please give yourself a little bit of grace and you know, just relax a bit. It'll be good.
It'll all be okay.
It'll all be okay.
It'll all
I
be
tell
okay.
myself that several times a day during market season.
Yeah, it's
And
okay.
I'm going to be circulating this recording after probably tomorrow morning. So if there's anything you missed or you want to recap, you'll be able to watch it on our YouTube channel. But with that, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you so much,
guys. It's good to see
everyone.
you
Really
too.
appreciate your
New
Bye,
time.
faces.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Night.
Have a great night.